Jamie, welcome to the Z Learning Podcast. So glad to have you on.
Thank you, Zev, for having me on today.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here. So Jamie, for my listeners who don't know, maybe you could give us a short, brief elevator pitch of what Nevvon is all about.
Sure. Nevvon is an e-training compliance platform for the healthcare industry. So in plain English, we train caregivers to stay in compliance with their continuing education credits on a yearly basis. And we are compliant across all 50 states in the United States.
Wow. Okay, so what makes your platform and training modules a little bit different? What would you say sets you apart from other training platforms and remote trainings that are now available to home healthcare agencies on the market? And what ways does your solution do a better job of helping people in home healthcare or home healthcare workers and agencies meet compliance requirements or sharpen employee skills?
Yeah, great questions, Zev. So I think firstly, just to reverse, I used to be quite a large healthcare provider or home care agency. I founded one and have lots of experience with this. Fully understand that the pain point in home healthcare is more around the supply side, more around the workforce, rather than the demand side of acquiring clientele. We all know we live in an aging population where people prefer to age in place. So fully realize the complications and the pain points coming around that. So I think just having that subject matter expertise where I've sat in their seats in the home care agencies, owners and administrator seats, I think that's a really big plus that I can talk and understand the full pain points. That's number one. Number two, what we're seeing is most e-training platforms, they're either really good at their technology, where they built a really good learning management system, or they have a really good clinical background and they built out very good education and training for the caregivers to use. Where we're unique is we have both departments. We are a technology company, so we built our learning management software from scratch, which of course makes it very agile. Interoperability between agency management systems and payroll systems are extremely crucial for efficiencies. We can easily connect through our APIs to these, and we have many successful API integrations with these companies. And from the education standpoint, really, I think that's the strength of the company, where we are very intelligent in the way we build our education, where we look at it from a regulatory and compliance perspective. We have instructional designers who build out the education for us based on the learner ability, which in our case is a home health aide or a certified nursing assistant or a personal care attendant, and building out, of course, the more modernized way in micro lessons, where it's much easier for the learner to retain their knowledge. So I think those are the two really big ways that we differentiate ourselves.
Awesome. So it sounds like you seamlessly integrate with a lot of organizations and have really great user-friendly learning modules. I guess in the form of videos, supplementary readings or quizzes. Which, by the way, I'm going to put a link in the show notes, of course, so anyone can check out Nevvon. You can see how the platform looks, how it works. But I've actually seen what you're saying across the board in the home health industry. In my company, ZV Media, we've been doing a lot of Google ads and Facebook ads with the home health industry. And what I'm seeing from talking to a lot of people is, they have no trouble getting patients or clientele right now. As you said, we're an aging society, and everybody wants to age in place or age at home, especially with the pandemic that was happening before. And it's going to continue happening, but that accelerated it for a while. So the problem is a lot of people say, I can't find anybody, I can't find enough people to hire. I don't
Right.
have enough trained people to work. So that sounds like where your solution is going to be an incredibly valuable asset. So I know that New York State, where we live, passed a law in late 2017 allowing home healthcare aides to do their periodic required training and compliance remotely rather than in the facility. You used to have to come in for the trainings, but in 2017, before the pandemic, actually, a lot of industries changed by the pandemic, but home healthcare, somehow they knew, and they made it, you could do your routine compliance, and trainings and stuff remotely. So you don't have to leave the patient, you don't have to find a replacement. You could do it while you're at the house of where you're working. And this makes it possible for them to do it without having to leave the patients. Are all states now allowing home care workers to do their required training and compliance remotely rather than on site since the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, at this point, yes, all states are permitting um, um, all home care agencies, and whether they're SNFs or ALFs, skilled nursing facilities and assisted living facilities, to do that. More so, we're seeing more flexibility even around different type of training. For example, the state of New York, back at the end of last year in 2020, again, it was driven by the pandemic. Um, Many agencies, or several agencies, had training programs, not just for your annual requirements, but actually to take a person off the street and train them to become a home health aide or a personal care attendant. And it was pretty extensive. Usually it lasts 12 to 15 days, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The director of nursing at the agency is teaching them. Usually it's a ratio of one teacher per 12 to 20 potential new home health aides. And the Department of Health came out in around October, November of last year, and now permits training for hybrid training, I should say, for new home health aides. So it's approximately about 85% online, and about 15 to 20% in class, where you're going to do your skilled practical training, your SPTs, and your final exam in class. So you're seeing the Department of Health modernize in terms of their thoughts, realizing that recruitment and retention of caregivers is extremely difficult, not just in New York, but across the whole nation, or even across the whole world. Anywhere, any country you go to, they're having the same issue, where it's very hard to recruit and retrain and retain caregivers. So you're seeing that. Another example right now is EVV training. For those who don't know, EVV is electronic visitor verification, which came into law this year on January 1st this year. Some states are requiring training on an annual basis, both for caregivers and office workers, and actually FIs, fiscal intermediaries, for the CDPAP program. It's due on August 1st of 2021, all the training. They permitted it to be online, and we're seeing more and more states roll that out as well. New York is one of the first states that required EVV training to happen on a yearly basis.
So we're definitely living through historic times, which,
Oh, definitely.
and your platform, I think, is uniquely positioned, of course, to play a vital role. And as you know, enrollment at nursing homes and assisted living facilities is way down in 2020. In 2020, for understandable reasons, last year it went down about 17%. I think, according to the Washington Post. And now, as a result, more and more elderly people and their loved ones are choosing to receive care in the home. And obviously, this was a growing trend before the pandemic, and the COVID-19 accelerated it. how have you responded to increased demand, and what do you anticipate, now we're in 2021, and as people are now transitioning more to going back to in-person things, what do you see, where do you see the future of the industry and Nevvon's role in all of it?
Right. So clearly, when the budget came out this year, there was more money allocated to the government. So you're seeing more money, allocated towards home care away from the skilled nursing facilities and assisted living facilities. So it's coming from the top, from the government. There's definitely a paradigm shift finally coming over to home care because, in my opinion, we all have grandparents. And we all have friends who have grandparents. And I think most people prefer to age in place and age at home. I think I've seen stats out there that 9 in 10 people prefer to live at home and age in place rather than going to a facility. So I think it's about time. And, the industry has been advocating for the exposure and, of course, the economic resources to put more money into home care. And because of the pandemic, that's finally happened. And that was a catalyst of it. So, I think Nevvon is uniquely positioned as our platform or technology is built for scale. Again, we're not leasing out someone else's LMS. We're not using any of the big massive online courses, the MOOCs as we call them. We built this specifically for the home healthcare industry or the skilled nursing facility and the assisted living facilities. So very, very easy for us to scale. And I think we're uniquely positioned to almost have that Amazon economic triangle where we can be better, faster, and cheaper for home care agencies. Yeah.
Very cool. So last question, maybe we can get into a little bit of the features or just a general overview of how the platform works. Let's just say that I have a home healthcare agency. I have 20 aides that I'm onboarding or that I want to train. I have adopted Nevvon. How would it work? They log into a system and they watch videos, or maybe just give us a brief summary of how it
works. Sure. So first thing, I'd love to talk about our pricing mechanism. I think all of our competitors charge like you would normally charge for software as a service, where it's per user per month. Being from the industry, I fully understand there's a huge turnover in the industry of caregivers. So to charge for a caregiver that might be with the agency for 3 months and then leave either the industry or go to a different agency is not very home care agency friendly. And when I thought of the pricing mechanism, I thought, how could I make it very friendly for the home care agencies, being that I was one not too long ago, just about 3.5 years ago. So we price on a consumption-based model, meaning you only pay for what you use, meaning that if at the end of the year, for whatever reason, like you mentioned, you have 20 caregivers, but only 17 of them used it, you're only paying for those 17. You're not going to pay for the 3 that didn't use it. So I think our clients really appreciate that, because it's tough in the home care market right now, and everybody's watching their dollars and cents. And so I think they're appreciating that. And from a technology point, going back to your view, yes, it's a matter of them giving us the contact information of those 20 caregivers. We put them on our platform. Because of our pricing mechanism, where we only get paid if the caregiver uses it, our incentive is to encourage the caregivers to use it in the best way possible. So we are almost in a way removing the burden from the agency to ensure that their caregivers are compliant. And we're taking that on ourselves, because we're only successful if the users, which are the caregivers, are actually utilizing it. So that's how we do it from that end. And then from the office management end, they obviously need reporting, and they want to see progress reports, and they need certificates. So they've got a Nevvon portal that they can go into where everything is updated on real-time basis. When they get audited on a biannual basis, the inspector asks for any kind of report. It's literally a push of a button, which they can retrieve at any moment.
Fantastic. And just for my listeners out there, I think it's always a smart thing from a business standpoint, whether you have a home healthcare agency, a marketing agency, or a lawyer. If you're in a service business, it's always good to think about developing a software or a platform or a product that can then serve your former competitors later. I think that's always a really cool thing. And I think that anyone who develops a platform or software product who came from that world truly understands their customers, their user base, and puts them in a unique position. And I think that's a very cool model that you have of you only benefit when the caregiver actually uses it. Because a big challenge with not just training platforms in this space, but in all spaces is, companies will pay all this money for LMSs or training platforms, and then their people don't use it. And they try to incentivize them, they try to make them use it, and a lot of times they don't. Also you have state requirements or federal requirements, and you need to have a certain percentage of people who are compliant. And I think that's a great way to do it. So everyone listening to this podcast, please go to the show notes and check out Nevvon. I think you'll find it very interesting. And if you have a home healthcare agency, I think it'll be especially interesting to you. Jamie, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the Z Learning podcast. I think my audience got a lot out of this, and thank you for being on.
Yeah, thank you, Zev. That was great. Thank you for having me on today.